Okay, good evening, everyone. Thank you for attending tonight's board meeting. My name is Brad Gottschall. I'm the Lower Paxton Township Manager, and in typical fashion, I'm going to give a brief overview of tonight's agenda, particularly for the benefit of those who may be watching at home. Beginning under old business, the board will act to authorize the submission of a letter to Penvest Chief Counsel providing evidence of the availability of funds for the purpose of securing the Penvest sewer loan. Next, the board will take action on a change order and an application for payment for the Friendship Center HVAC rooftop unit replacement Phase 1. Lastly, under old business, the board will consider taking action on an application for payment for the 2019 Township Drainage Improvement Project. Under new business, the board will consider an appointment to the Planning Commission, filling a vacancy left by Mr. Newsom. Secondly, the board will consider action on a change order for Paxtonia Fire Company's new engine. Finally, before acting on improvement guarantees and the payment of township and authority bills, the board will consider a preliminary and final plan development for Orrstown Bank at Blue Ridge Village. And at this point, then, the members are seated and prepared to open the meeting for business. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to call this meeting of the Lower Paxton Township Board of Supervisors to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Mr. Chrisman.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
We now will move to the approval of minutes of the meeting of June 11th, 2019. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
Mr. Chairman, I'll move we approve the minutes of June the 11th, 2019 as prepared and circulated.
So moved. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. We'll now proceed to public comment. Before we have public comment, I would like to announce that the board met in executive session prior to this meeting to receive information from the township manager and staff, and we'll be doing so again following this meeting. Public comment is for items that are not on the agenda tonight. If you wish to comment on an item on the agenda, we will have public comment at that time. So would anybody like to address the board on an item not? Yes, sir. Please come to the podium, and if you would give us your name and address.
Hello, friends. Rick Mock Jr., 1480 Crumbs Mill Road. I'm here. I'd like to discuss something that's been on my mind and the neighbors' mind since the June 11th meeting, when a $15,750 study was approved by HRG for a safety evaluation of Crumbs Mill Road. As a lifelong resident of the Crumbs Mill neighborhood and 30 years directly on Crumbs Mill Road, I feel like I have a couple of minutes that I would like to at least share some things as we anticipate the public release of the findings. They were given 5 different things to look at. One was the Crumbs Mill Road and Dean Road intersection, possibly making that a 3-way stop. I guess the best thing to say is I'm for anything that'll stop people on our road. I do, however, feel it will be very difficult southbound, especially in rain and snow, if people are coming down over the hill at any rate of speed. They can't stop now making the turn as it is. And in the winter, it's kind of fun just watching the fireworks out front as people stop, turn around our driveway. The item 2 was Crumbs Mill Road and Grace Road, the road I grew up on. Traffic signs are there, a 3-way stop. That is our only traffic calming device in our neighborhood. Fortunately for those stop signs, people at least pause and slow down to look if someone's turning out. We've had terrific enforcement from our police although it has been noticed that recently that has ceased, which I'm guessing is part of this study, or somebody made a big stink about getting a ticket from running the stop sign. But I could be all wrong there. I kind of equate Crumbs Mill Road to Lock Willow. It's a cut through. Like Mountain Road, you get on Lock Willow, you take the shortcut over to Route 22. But I noticed that their neighborhoods have been kept intact. There are stop signs along Lock Willow Road, allowing the neighbors to have the integrity of a safe in and out of where they live. Then item 3 was to increase the speed limit. The PennDOT says about increasing the speed to 35 miles an hour. Well, I don't know. We're all humans. If it's 25, they go 35 to 40. If it's 35, they go 45. I don't know what else to say about that other than between the southern coming southbound at the second exit into Quail Hollow in 1/2 mile through the new Stray Winds development, there are 4 signs recommending slow down 15 miles an hour sharp turn that are currently in place. So in 1/2 mile to Paxton Church Road, you've got 4 dangerous curves that we're talking about, I don't know, increasing the speed so we can brake faster, I guess. Needless to say, I'm not an expert on the Larrabee Drive. There's some additional curve warning, anything for safety. I know that there are some guardrail things there. I would think you'd want them to stay up because there's like a creek there that we'd hate to see somebody go down into. And I just want to finish by saying I'm a walker. The neighbors know me. You know, I go by, Coach. You know, how's everything? We talk about things. And I know that every now and then those things come across Facebook. Never have I ever. And never have I ever talked to a neighbor about that terrible accident on Crumbs Mill Road where the people got killed. So I guess I'm for the don't fix it if it's not broken. Thank you.
Thank you. And the status of that study, Brad, is?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, just to give some clarity, and because it's been a while since that study has been done, I just give a quick synopsis of it, and then Mr. Hines is here as well.
It's the June 11th meeting, by the way, if you want to look at the agenda, if you want to look up the information on it. It was the June 11th meeting.
Yeah,
Jason's here. He may even have some working knowledge that he may have immediately, or otherwise we may need to get the information and get it back to Mr. Mock.
Yeah, I was going to say, just to give a quick thing, this study is as a result of a number of complaints that were received along the corridor. After looking at those issues, I kind of kicked it over to the Traffic Safety Committee here internally with the police department. After that time, the state got involved through PennDOT Connects, which pointed to a number of items along the corridor that needed some addressing. At such time, I had reached out to HRG to take a look at doing a comprehensive study because there are a number of issues such as infrastructure issues, sight distance issues, speeding, a number of different things that I felt would be best served doing a comprehensive study on. So that's where it is, and Jason can give a status of where that is at this point. But
yeah, thanks, Brad. So the studies.
Jason, I don't think your mic's on. Is it? Oh.
Can everybody hear me? Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, the study's in the final stages. We're anticipating it being complete by the end of the month here, and turned over to the township for review and for communicating to the residents at that time. I will say that the LTAP studies, which are done kind of by a unit within PennDOT, are very high level without the benefit of a lot of very detailed engineering analysis. So we incorporated that into our study, and I think the results will be a little bit more telling than what was published in that LTAP study.
Okay. Jason, Jason, do you have any idea when that'll be completed? Approximately.
By the end of the month.
Oh, by the end of the month. Okay. I'm
Yes.
just thinking, so we hear it, and I wanted Mr. Mock to be able to hear that also.
Jason, I had a question. Mr. Mock said about increasing the speed limit to 35. Would that be the whole road of Crumbs Mill, or would that just be like from just a portion, say like from Colonial Road down where the businesses are? What are they looking at? 35 seems awfully fast going down through where Grace Road, where the houses are.
Yeah, so PennDOT actually recommended the speed limit increase along various sections of the road, not the entire road in its entirety. Their recommendations were increasing the speed limit to 35 between the 39 intersection and Paxton Church Road, and then keeping the 25-mile-an-hour speed limit from Paxton Church to Commerce Drive, and then from Commerce Drive out to Colonial, increasing to 35 miles an hour as well.
What would be the logic in increasing the speed limit if
Going from one
safety
to
is
the
already a concern?
I believe
don't
that
understand the recommendation.
the recommendation was due to complaints about speeding. I think the thought was that
So raising the
would-
speed limit is going to address speeding problems, other than
That-
to make it legal?
That was PennDOT's thought. I know that we've looked at the geometry of the road, the stopping sight distances. A lot more engineering analysis went into what we're studying, and I don't know that we're coming out with the same recommendations on that front that PennDOT was.
Yeah, because 39 to Paxton Church, as Mr. Mock said, that's where all your curves are, your real bad curves. So I can't imagine going from 25 to 35.
Well, we're going to be getting this study here in a couple of weeks. What we'll need to do is we'll need to schedule this for a workshop session.
Absolutely.
And notify the neighbors in the area that we're having a workshop session on that issue, either through social media, perhaps even by mail to those areas, so that they can come and we can have a full presentation by HRG. Get the whole area together.
Mr. Gutschall, do we have Mr. Mock's address? Rick, I just want to make sure that as long as they have your
He gave it
address and
whenever
also
he
your
spoke.
phone number so that somebody can reach you.
Jason, so you said by the end of October, would we be able to get that on, Brad, in November to our workshop? He's talking, sorry.
I'm sorry.
You're okay. Would we be able to get that on in November if he's going to get the results?
Sure.
Well, we also want to allow
Yes.
enough time to get the word out to folks who live in the area that we're doing that, so they can come here or watch on TV or whatever. But
If we can get the information to Mr. Mock, everybody in the neighborhood's related. I'm sure he can make certain that it gets circulated in a proper manner. Sorry, Rick.
Tell one person, they'll tell them all.
so you're more effective than social media, are you? Very good.
Okay.
Okay, good.
Thank you for your concerns.
Thank you. Yeah, we'll look forward to hearing that in a couple of weeks. Would anybody else like to address the board on an item not on the agenda? Okay.
I'd like to address Mr. Hines while we're on the road thing. Jason, can I just ask you, I had another complaint about the light at Fairmont and Locust Lane, and there was supposedly an accident out there this weekend. Do you know what's going on there?
We actually just had a meeting with the developer and their traffic engineers, staff and HRG were involved in that meeting. They're nearing the completion of the plan for that intersection. Their plan is to come to a workshop meeting and present that to the supervisors before it officially gets submitted for comment by the township and PennDOT concurrently. So that is in the kind of in the final stages of design and getting ready for
Okay, well then
the
that's a good
permitting.
thing.
Yep.
That's closer. Okay. All right, great. Thank you.
Is that something that might be ready to bring to us in November, or is that more of a December?
I think we'd have to check back with Yinkst on that. It seemed like it was probably 95%, but
Well, we would like to schedule as soon as possible so we can keep this moving forward.
certainly we can get back with the developer and try to get it on the agenda as soon as possible.
I didn't mean to put you on the spot, but I thought since you were here and I had a complaint and there was an accident there this weekend, I was told, I just thought if we could take care of that. Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you, Jason. Okay, well, that does bring us to chairman and board member comments. Would any members of the board like to make any specific comments? Robin?
I will. Tomorrow, the board will be attending the ribbon cutting at the new D&H Distributors on Old Jones Road, and I'd like to welcome D&H to our township.
Any other members?
I'd just like to make a comment that it's my understanding that this past Saturday night where we had Read at Brightville Park or telling of stories to children was a high success. We had a goodly number of children. I think it exceeded their expectation and was well attended. So to those people who were involved in that, kudos are to be sent. You can send that to your wife. Thank you.
Mr. Chrisman, were you one of the readers? I just heard through the grapevine that you were.
That was not to be discussed. I noticed I made the comment, it was my understanding that the program was
Yeah, but I'm just saying, I think you were one of the readers I heard.
We were not allowed to read. We had to tell the story.
To tell the story, okay.
Mr. Murphy, those comments aren't appropriate either.
I'm going to reserve any comment on this.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I believe Saturday coming up is the
CASA.
ribbon cutting for the CASA snack bar.
Yes, at 11 o'clock.
New and improved
New
snack
snack
bar. So that's a real gathering point for the community on weekends. So that's going to be a fun day.
We'll be there again.
Lots of good things taking place. Anybody else have anything else?
Oh, and
Okay.
Colonial Park had their open house on Saturday, and they had a really nice turnout there.
Colonial Park Fire Department.
Fire company, yeah.
Yes. Okay. And with that, it's time for the manager's report.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I have no report this evening.
One of your best reports. Thank you.
It was very succinct.
Very succinct. We appreciate that. Okay, we do have a number of items of both old and new business, so we will move on to old business. And we will begin with item A under old business, and we need authorization for the township secretary, Mr. Rudd, to execute a letter to the chief counsel at Penvest. Mr. Gottschall, do you wish to explain this letter?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Due to an increase in anticipated construction cost that has been realized since the time of the latest Penvest loan approval, the township is required to submit the attached letter to Penvest providing an explanation as to how this gap in funding will be handled. The Penvest loan was approved in the amount of $13,278,195, with anticipated construction costs having risen by $320,802 since that time. As a condition of closing, the township, as the loan applicant, is required to show the funding mechanism to close this gap. Any expenditures required out of the general fund as a result of this action will be reimbursed by the sewer fund. So this has no realized impact on the general fund moving forward or at this time.
What caused a $320,802 overrun? Do we know? Do you know?
Yeah, the increase in this particular area due to construction costs is a result of unanticipated pipe type, under the ground pipe. A lot of piping that was anticipated to be PVC was actually, in fact, a different type, an older type that has to actually be replaced. We were not anticipating that amount of piping to be replaced.
I guess you never know until you actually dig it up what's actually there.
That's right.
Do we have a motion? Any questions from the board?
So when they televised, did they televise it first? Wouldn't they have seen what was there or no?
So.
I don't know that. I'd have to have Mr. Weaver answer that question directly, but I can't say that they most likely televise every run beforehand. But I'd have to have
If they did that, then when you dug up, you weren't surprised.
Sure. Yeah. I'll get clarity on that point.
Isn't that pretty much their standard operating procedure?
Yeah.
To just wait till they dig it up and see what's there?
No, to do the camera
Right,
early
that's
on,
what
to
I
do the
thought. You had
assessment.
to televise
That's why I
it
said it's
first.
normal standard
Yeah.
operating procedure. I've heard Mr. Weaver say that. Whether they did specifically in this one, we don't know. But I know that's their standard operating procedure.
Any public questions or comments? Seeing none, is there a motion on the issue?
Mr. Chairman, I'll move we authorize the Township Secretary to execute a letter to the Chief Counsel of Penvest showing the difference of an increase of $320,802 as described and recommended by Mr. Gottschall.
So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, aye? Aye. Okay. We'll go to item B. This is action on change order number 1 for the Friendship Center HVAC RTU project phase 1. Mr. Gottschall.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. This change order in the amount of $8,448 is due to the addition of an accessory power exhaust fan on the units and brings the contract price to $115,448. The next item on the agenda, if I may lump them together for explanation purposes, is the application for payment, which authorizes the execution of payment in the total contract amount having been completed as of several weeks now in the amount of $115,448, inclusive of this change order before you this evening. Both actions are recommended by staff and the township engineer, HRG, who again, Mr. Hines is here tonight. If there are any technical questions, he'd be, I'm sure, eager to answer them.
Eager might be a bit of a strong word, but the new units having been installed, have they been inspected?
Yes, they have. That's why we actually held the payment for this meeting instead of the previous one, because training with staff and changeover of operations and maintenance manuals occurred last week.
Okay.
Jason, I just had a question. I know down the road we're replacing the other ones, so are we going to know ahead of time if they need a fan too, or is this just one fan for all the units that are up there?
No, we'll know if the new ones that are being replaced in the future need those as well.
Okay, so we don't have change orders, because I don't like
Correct.
change order. Okay. Thank you.
Other questions?
No, just a point of clarification when you're finished with discussion, Mr.
Any public questions? Your point of clarification?
Point of clarification, Mr. Chairman, when I make the motion, I'm going to combine items B and C as one motion as opposed to keeping them separated.
I have a question. Jason, I don't understand the requirement for the exhaust fan. What's it supposed to do? Is it supposed to extend the life of the unit?
It was a compatibility issue. The old equipment was installed when the Friendship Center was built more than 20 years ago. So that barometric pressure exhaust type of system is obsolete now. So the exhaust fan system is what's typical in the new equipment. So for the new units to be compatible, it required the new power fan exhaust type of system.
Okay. I guess we're ready for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'll move the approval of change order number 1 for the Friendship Center for HVAC RTU project phase 1 in the amount of $8,448, and to approve the payment number 1 for the Friendship Center for the HVAC RTUV project phase 1 for the $8,448, bringing the total to $115,448 as presented and recommended by Mr. Hines.
So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? Okay, motion passes. Item D under old business, we need to take action on application for payment number 3 for the 2019 Township Drainage Improvement Project. Mr. Gottschall again.
Yes, board members, pay app number 3 authorizes payment in the amount of $302,053.98 to the contractor on this project, Greenland Construction Incorporated. Once executed, the balance of this contract will be in the amount of $383,369.30, inclusive of retainage. This pay application has been recommended by the township engineer and staff.
Okay. Questions?
No, straightforward.
Okay. With that, is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'll move that we approve the payment number 3 for the 2019 Township Drainage Improvement Project in the amount of $302,053.98 as recommended by Mr. Hines from HRG.
We have a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that takes us to new business. Our first item under new business, we have a vacancy on the Planning Commission due to a resignation, and this term will extend through the 31st of December of next year, 2020. The item is to appoint Sandra Bloom. Sandra Bloom has been serving for the last year and a half as the alternate to the Planning Commission and wishes to move up to be an appointed member of the Planning Commission. She did call me the other day. She had a family emergency and had to leave the area. Otherwise, she planned on being here. But we have we know of Sandra. She was appointed as the alternate, has been serving as that. The chairman of the Planning Commission as well recommends her appointment. Are there any questions or comments?
When she moves up, Mr. Chairman, then I know we have 2 applications. Will the Planning Commission be doing the interviews? Because that's what we've been doing. We've been letting the boards interview them and then letting them pick.
I believe that process is already underway and may in fact be complete.
Okay.
I did not put the appointment of the alternate on the agenda for this meeting because that application only came in last week. It was just presented in our packets this week. I thought best that we wait and give the board a couple of weeks to sort through that, and we can put that on the agenda for next month.
Okay. And I just wanted to thank Mr. Newsom. He's who Sandra is taking his place. I sat on the Planning Commission with him for 5 years, and he was there a long, long time. So just thank you to Roy for all of his dedicated service to the township.
A very long time.
I was just going to say very, very long time.
Yeah. So, okay, are there any other questions or comments? Any public questions or comments? Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'll move we approve the appointment of Sandra Bloom to the vacancy on the Planning Commission for the unexpired term ending 12/31/2020 as recommended by Chair.
So moved. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. We, item B, have to take action on a change order. This is change order number 1. That sort of indicates we're anticipating additional ones when we say number 1, Mr. Director.
This has been a bad theme tonight.
It has not been a good theme. But this is change order number 1 for the Paxtonia Fire Company, engine 34-1. This is a new engine we're purchasing.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman of the board, members of the board. Just to give you a little background before we get into the actual change order itself, to give you an idea of what the Paxtonia Fire Company and their members did in preparation for the construction of this piece of apparatus. There are 4 committee members that met for countless hours, 50 to 60 hours, before we ever even received one sheet of paper from, at this point, the manufacturer, Seagrave. Once that initial spec came in, there was another 10-hour meeting with myself and members of the engine committee to review that spec. And to give you an idea, that's normally those specs, I think in theirs, I may be speaking a little out of term here, but it's probably in the neighborhood of 300 and some pages. That's a line by line item that we go over and make sure that we have everything that we need on that piece of apparatus as we move forward. Some of the issues that you'll see that I'll talk about here in the change order, that change order being $23,929, was a result of digging deep into that set of specs and discussing several factors involved, some of which are requirements for safety issues and some of the requirements for mounting of the apparatus, the tools on the apparatus. So just to give you a little background, we did our hard work, so did the committee there at Paxtonia. Unfortunately, these little change orders, and I know it's not a little bit of money, but these change orders do come about, and they're quite necessary. We took a look at them and pretty much eliminated everything we possibly could to get us down to that price. Understanding that the initial budget for the Paxtonia rescue engine was approximately $800,000. They did their best as a committee to keep that under $800 initially, and part of that was just trying to do the best they could for the township. That signed quote came in at $789,613. So there was just right around $10,000 under budget initially. So when we take a look at the overall $23,929, the difference, the $10,000 that we came in initially under budget, ultimately we're looking at being slightly over budget from the $800,000. However, the operational and safety issues or requirements with this change order, just to give you a breakdown of those, and I won't dig deep into what those numbers are or specifically for, but safety and operational changes with the apparatus that was constructed is roughly $6,000. There's the National Fire Protection Association requires certain things on the apparatus. That was $2,585 in changes. Seagrave themselves, because of us changing after the initial quote, those changes and cost through Seagrave was $3,844. The mounting of the equipment was not factored in initially. It's being put in there at this particular time. Specifically, there's specific construction of the mounting software, the mounting hardware that needs to go in place to hold the various rescue equipment that'll be handled and carried on that piece of apparatus, $11,093. And one of the required items that from when I first took this job was what we would refer to as a kill switch installation in a remote part of the apparatus is a requirement through the township standard operating manual. So all those total $23,929, and again, we looked very hard at those figures, and I believe that's a reasonable change order request at this particular time.
Is this additional fund something that would still come out of the fire apparatus fund?
Yes, sir.
Not
So
the general fund.
There is money left on the fire side of the capital budget, and I'm glad you bring that up. Additionally, with one piece of apparatus, I factored a lot of the numbers on the resale of the old apparatus relatively low, and I'm fairly confident at this point for the one of the pieces of apparatus we're going to recoup that and then some. I think we're going to be $40,000 to the good,
Okay.
More than we anticipated. So I think this would ultimately be a wash.
Very good.
That helps my decision.
And thank you for the explanation. The number of specs on these things is just incredible, and the things you have to go through, and making sure all the details are there. It's really significant.
It is significant, and ultimately, the committee and Seagrave and myself and anyone a part of building this apparatus, it's from the wheels up. The frames are built, the type of brakes, the tires, you name it. It's line item by line item until we have a fire truck, and it takes some time. But ultimately, I think that this piece of apparatus is going to serve the township well for the next 18 to 20 years.
Director, as I read the memo, it said that Lingelstown and Colonial Park had factored theirs in ahead of time. Am I right?
They did.
Okay.
The mounting equipment, both with Lingelstown and Colonial Park, there was a fee thrown in there as not to exceed, and that was not done on this particular one.
Yep.
And that's something Seagrove did not catch? Or I guess they didn't care because they were simply responding to the quote or to this RFP.
They were, and
so then it was on our fault.
Specifically, I think Paxtonia's what they were trying to accomplish here is not throw a number out there. They wanted to get as specific as they could with the mounting number, so you could compare apples to apples.
Well, the bottom line here is, had you not missed it, you would have put it there anyhow.
Yeah.
Correct.
So
Exactly.
one way or another, we were going to have to do this.
Yeah.
Right.
And they needed
So
Yep.
It doesn't matter.
Doesn't
Not an
matter.
issue.
Okay, any additional questions? Any public questions or comments? Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'll move we approve change order number 1 for Paxtonia Fire Company in the amount of $23,929 as presented and recommended by Mr. Kashiba.
So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. And Director, the good news is on October 10th, we closed on our bond issue, and therefore the funds are now available to actually pay for these fire trucks. So
This is a good thing. Thank you, members of the board.
very good.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, or should I say apparatus? I guess fire truck isn't the technical term anymore, right? Item C under new business, we need to take action on Resolution 1927. This will certify certain road dedication resolutions and authorize filing of such with the Clerk of the Court of Common Pleas, Mr. Godshall.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. So although this is not done very often, Resolution 19-27 is traditional practice in Lower Paxton, providing the mechanism by which various roadway dedication resolutions can be memorialized and filed with the Clerk of Courts. Essentially, this resolution compiles all dedications since, in this instance, 2018, and transmits them to the county and allows us to formally add them to the liquid fuels listing as well with the Commonwealth.
Any questions?
So this helps us get more money
For liquid
for
fuel.
our roads?
Yes,
We have more roads on record at this point.
correct.
Good.
This would be the final step in the process?
Mrs. Irby,
It's almost the final step. I have to
Almost.
take it tomorrow to the courthouse, and then it goes down to PennDOT. I've already given him a copy of this, so all the roads have already been calculated. He already has the number. He just needs this piece to the final piece of the puzzle.
Oh, good.
And this
Good, thank
road
you.
is Christians Drive.
Yeah.
Just a question. Because we're actually updating our roads for dedication.
Right.
How often are we required to do this? Do we do this every year, every 2 years, every 5 years?
We try to do it every year.
Every
So
year.
all the
'Cause I just don't
roads- but
remember this
there's a deadline.
resolution.
We did one in 2017. We didn't have enough roads to dedicate in 2018, and the cutoff to do it is September.
Okay, so you wait for a minimum number, obviously, so
Right.
it's, okay, thanks, Amanda.
No, Christians
Yes, sir.
Drive and
Sorry.
Amber Fields.
So Amanda, does this increase the miles of road that we have now?
This is going to be a big bump.
Okay.
There
When-
are, 1, 2, 3, there are, some of those resolutions have more than one segment of road
Okay.
in them. So Amber Fields, I think, is one. There's a few of them that have a number. Wilshire Estates, I think, had 4 or 5 segments of roads
Okay.
in it. So
'Cause
each of
we
those
were-
resolutions have a number of roads.
I think we were at 210 miles, so I'd be curious.
We'll
Would,
have
would you
that.
know that, or Mr. Klein?
I get that information. Jeff does as well.
Okay.
But it's calculated. It's not formalized until we take this down, and then they'll
Okay.
give us our final count.
When you do that, if you could see Mr. Gutschall, if you could put that in our packet next week, I'd like to, just out of curiosity.
All right?
Okay, great, thank you.
I assume it's the compilation of resolutions 2018, 3, 22, 27, 50, 52, 53, 54, 04, 17, and 25.
Right.
It's the compilation, I'm sure. The streets are
Of
named
all
in
of
each
them.
of those resolutions.
Keeping in mind, someday we're going to have to repave all those roads. So as we add miles,
Ka-ching.
the cost goes up, yes.
Ka-ching.
Any additional questions? Public questions or comment? Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'll move we approve Resolution 2019-27, which is certifying the updated certain road dedication resolutions and authorizing the filing of such new data with the Clerk of the Court of Common Pleas as presented by Mr. Gutschall and Mrs. Irby.
So moved. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, item D, we're going to now move on to subdivision and land development. We do have the need to take action on a preliminary and final land development plan for Orrstown Bank, this to be built at the Blue Ridge Village Lot 2. And Mrs. Zerby, are you going to be filling us in on this one?
Yes.
Thank you.
So this is the Orrstown Bank. It proposes to construct.
Is your microphone on?
It is.
Move it a little closer, please. Thank you.
It is for a 3,200 square foot bank with a drive-through on Lot 2 of the Blue Ridge Village development. Site improvements for the lot will consist of the installation of associated parking and lighting for the development. The lot has a total area of 3.217 acres and is in the residential retirement development zoning district and will be served by public sewer and water supply. This plan was approved at the August 14th, 2019 Planning Commission. 2 waiver requests. The first waiver is actually not required, and the second request is to present the plan scale smaller than 1 inch for 60 feet. Staff recommends approval of the waiver request for the existing conditions plan page only. There are 5 administrative comments and 3 general comments. Tim Dwyer is here from K&W Engineers if you have questions for the applicant.
Okay, if Tim would come to the podium, please.
Good evening to the board.
Good evening.
Appreciate your time.
Sure. Do you have anything to add to what Mrs. Zerby has said?
I do not.
Oh, okay. Members of the board, do you have any questions?
So looking at the property from Linglestown Road, are we to the left or the right?
If you're traveling westbound on Linglestown Road, it'd be on the right-hand side.
No, I'm sorry. I'm looking across the street from Crumbs Mill, like where the new buildings are now. Are you going to be to the left of those buildings or to the right?
Right-hand side.
The right-hand side,
Yep.
okay.
The new road coming into Blue
Yeah.
Ridge Village Development will be on the right-hand
right-hand
side. So
side.
Alexandra Lane comes in, EG Drive comes off to the right, will be on the right-hand side
Okay.
at the corner of Alexandra Lane and EG Drive.
I'm seeing another Orrstown Bank in Lower Paxton, but I'm not too sure. Is there another one here?
I'm not familiar if there's another one in the township or not.
Okay, I'm seeing it, but there's
I
none?
don't believe so.
There's none. Okay, where is there another Orrstown Bank? I think I just saw one.
There's one down in Swatara Township.
Yeah,
Oh, maybe that's where,
right. Yeah.
okay, maybe
You
that's
can
where
see
I
it
saw
from the Chick-fil-A, which
Oh,
we don't have one of.
yes, that's where I was at the Chick-fil-A. That's where I saw it, there at the
Yes.
light. Okay.
Something we need to correct. So,
Can you put in Chick-fil-A out there too? No.
It might be, who knows?
little suspense building here.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Sure.
Mr. Chrisman, I'm sure you have a few.
Yes. My first question, sir, is are you authorized to speak on behalf of the applicant?
I am.
Good. Number 2, do you have in front of you the same documents that we do with regard to the preliminary and final land development?
I do. I have received that.
Good, because I have a series of questions and I need for you to respond to them so they can be memorialized. The first one has to do with the 2 waiver requests. I'm assuming you have no objections to the fact that the waiver request that you submitted, the staff is indicating that they're not necessary. So I assume that's okay with you.
That's fine with us.
I'm sure it is.
Yep.
There are 4 administrative comments, if you would look at those, please. And I need for you to respond that either all 5 have been completed or will be completed in a timely fashion acceptable to the township staff.
They will be completed in a timely fashion.
Then in the general comments, there are 2 specific areas that I'd like to address with you on those. Specifically, the statement number 2 that has 7 comments from Mr. Nolt, our Township Sewer Department. Again, have those 7 comments been addressed? Have they been approved or will they be approved in a timely fashion acceptable to township staff?
Yes, we addressed those with our previous submission, and we have planned to address any outstanding comments in a timely fashion for the township.
Okay, based on your response, then I'm going to ask our staff, is his answer acceptable to you?
Yes.
Okay. And finally, sir, the comment number 4, where there are 20 comments identified in a memo dated October the 9th from HRG. Again, have all of those either been completed or will be completed in a timely fashion acceptable to Mr. Hines and our township staff?
They will be completed in a timely fashion.
Will be completed. Mr. Hines and Mrs. Zerby, I'll ask you both the same question. Are there any items there that may create any contentions that cannot be resolved with the applicant?
No.
Okay. Just want to make certain everything is copacetic.
Any additional questions? Any public questions or comments? Seeing none, is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'll move that we approve the preliminary and final land development plan for Orstown Bank at Blue Ridge Village Lot Number 2, Plan 2018-31, with the 2 listed waiver requests, the 5 administrative comments, with the 4 general comments, specifically number 2, the 7 comments on the memo dated August the 7th, 2019 will be completed in a timely fashion acceptable to staff, and also item 4, which is the 20 comments listed in a memo dated October the 9th, 2019 from HRG, that those also will be completed in a timely fashion acceptable to township staff.
So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. There you go, sir. Thank you.
Thank you to the board. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. That'll take us now to improvement guarantees, et cetera. We have 2 items under improvement guarantees. Any questions about these 2 items?
I'll ask Mr. Gutschall. The release, I'm fine. Extension, I assume, is under normal conditions. There are no extenuating circumstances that have asked for that.
Correct.
Okay, hearing none.
Any other questions? Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'll move we approve the 2 improvement guarantees, 1 a release, the second one being an extension.
So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Thank you. That takes us to payment of bills of Lower Paxton Township and the Lower Paxton Township Authority. Madam Treasurer.
Yes, I make a motion we pay the bills of Lower Paxton Township and Lower Paxton Township Authority.
So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Would any members of the board or the manager like to make any additional announcements? Seeing none, a reminder that we have a bit of a layoff here. There being 5 Tuesdays this month. We will meet again, not on a Tuesday, but on Wednesday, November 6th, because Tuesday, November 5th is Election Day, and we would encourage all citizens of Lower Paxton Township to participate in that. So that we are not conflicting with the election, our meeting will be on Wednesday, November 6th at 7 p.m. in this room. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.
Yes.